The strongest hunters in Australia died within 7 minutes. I lasted 3 days. The first sign that something was wrong was the sky. At exactly 9:17 a.m., every television, phone, and emergency broadcast system in Sydney flashed the same message. S-rank gate detected. Most people panicked. Hunters didn't. Gates appeared all the time. Dangerous ones, rare ones, even national-level threats. That was why hunters existed. As a D-rank hunter, I wasn't expected to do much whenever a high-rank gate appeared. My job was usually clearing small monster nests, escorting survey teams, and handling the kind of work that paid just enough to cover rent. The elites handled disasters. People like me survived them. I was drinking coffee outside a convenience store in Parramatta when I saw it. A tear opened in the sky, not above the city, above Sydney Harbour. The gate stretched across the clouds like a wound in reality itself. Cars stopped. Pedestrians stared upward. Even from dozens of kilometers away, it looked enormous. My phone buzzed. Every hunter in New South Wales received the same emergency order. All registered hunters report to designated response zones. Await further instructions. I sighed. There went my day off. The command center was chaos. Officials rushed between screens while helicopters circled the harbor. The gate continued expanding. That alone should have terrified everyone. Gates didn't grow. They appeared at a fixed size. Then they opened. This one kept growing. An A-rank analyst stood before a wall of monitors. We've never seen energy readings like this. Nobody spoke, because we all knew what that meant. Unknown variables killed hunters, not monsters, not dungeons, unknown variables. At noon, Australia's strongest hunters arrived. S-ranks, national heroes, the kind of people whose battles made international news. The atmosphere immediately changed. People relaxed. If the S-ranks were here, everything would be fine. That's what everyone thought. Then the gate cracked, not opened, cracked, like glass. A sound echoed across the city, a sound so deep it felt like the earth itself was groaning. Every screen in the command center went black. The energy readings vanished. Then came the roar. Thousands of windows shattered. People covered their ears. Some collapsed. Others screamed. The roar continued for nearly 10 seconds. When it finally stopped, silence followed. The kind of silence that exists before disaster. Then something emerged. A claw, larger than a city bus. Black scales reflected sunlight like polished obsidian. The claw gripped the edges of the gate. The crack widened. Another claw appeared, then a head. Ancient golden eyes surveyed Sydney. For a brief moment, the creature simply looked down at humanity. Not with anger, not with hatred, with curiosity, like a person observing insects. The dragon pushed through. The gate exploded. A shockwave rolled across the city. Buildings shook. Boats capsized in the harbor. And the dragon spread its wings. Dear God. The wings blocked out the sun. Panic erupted immediately. Emergency services ordered mass evacuations. Military aircraft launched from nearby bases. The S-rank hunters took flight. Millions watched live broadcasts as Australia's greatest heroes moved to intercept the dragon. For 6 minutes, hope survived. The dragon barely moved. The S-ranks unleashed enough power to level mountains. Lightning, fire, gravity manipulation. Abilities most hunters could barely imagine. The attacks struck. The dragon didn't even blink. At 6 minutes and 43 seconds, the creature exhaled. A beam of crimson fire crossed the sky. 3 S ranks disappeared instantly. At 6 minutes and 50 seconds, another died. At 7 minutes and 12 seconds, the battle ended. Australia's strongest defenders fell into Sydney Harbour. The dragon turned away, as though bored. The world watched in horror. The age of hunters was over. I should have run. Every instinct screamed at me to leave. Instead, I found myself helping civilians evacuate a collapsed shopping center. A section of the roof had caved in during the shockwave. People were trapped. Children cried beneath twisted steel beams. Emergency crews couldn't reach them. The roads were jammed, so hunters like me stepped in. Hours passed. The dragon remained above the city, watching, waiting, searching. That was the strange part. It wasn't attacking randomly. It wanted something. Nobody knew what. But every time it moved, entire districts emptied in terror. Near sunset, I discovered my answer. Beneath the rubble of the shopping center lay a damaged antique store. The owner had survived, barely. While helping him escape, something caught my eye. An object buried beneath broken shelves, a metal pendant, old, covered in symbols. The moment I touched it, a surge of energy shot through my arm. Images flooded my mind, ancient cities, forgotten wars, a colossal dragon bound by chains of light, and a single message. The prison has failed. I dropped the pendant. My hands shook. The old shop owner stared at me. "You saw it too." I froze. "What?" His face went pale. "The memories." He looked toward the darkening sky. "That thing isn't invading." The distant silhouette of the dragon hovered over Sydney Harbour. "It's escaping." That night, Sydney burned. Not because of the dragon, because of the gates. Dozens of smaller gates began appearing across the city, unstable, violent, as though reality itself was breaking. Monsters poured into the streets. Hunter guilds collapsed. Communication networks failed. Entire districts vanished from contact. The government declared martial law. None of it mattered. People were running, and something far worse had begun. The pendant grew warm in my pocket. A voice echoed inside my head. Ancient, tired, terrifying. It has found the key. I stopped walking. The survivors around me continued toward an evacuation shelter. The voice returned. Run, little hunter. For the first time since emerging from the gate, the dragon moved with purpose. Its massive head slowly turned. Toward me, toward the pendant, toward the weakest hunter in Sydney. And then it smiled. 3 days later, half the city would be in ruins. Millions would be evacuated. Governments around the world would prepare for extinction. And somehow, impossibly, the fate of humanity would rest with a D-rank hunter who was never supposed to matter. My name is Ethan Walker, and this is how Sydney fell. The smile should have been impossible. The dragon was nearly a kilometer away, hovering above the burning skyline of Sydney. Yet I knew what I had seen. It had looked directly at me, and it had smiled. A chill ran down my spine. Around me, the survivors continued moving through the dark streets, unaware that the most dangerous creature on Earth had just noticed our existence. The pendant in my pocket grew hotter. I nearly dropped it. The ancient voice returned. It knows you carry the key. I clenched my jaw. What key? The survivors looked at me strangely. I realized I had spoken aloud. Before anyone could ask questions, a deafening roar echoed across the city. The dragon moved. People stopped. Some screamed, others simply stared. The creature unfolded its massive wings and launched itself into the night sky. Buildings trembled from the force. Windows exploded hundreds of meters away. The dragon wasn't attacking. It was hunting. And somehow, it was hunting me. Our evacuation group reached an underground train station shortly after midnight. Hundreds of civilians crowded the tunnels. Families huddled together beneath emergency lights. Children cried quietly. Exhausted hunters guarded entrances with whatever weapons they still had. Nobody looked hopeful anymore. The illusion that someone would save us had died with the S ranks. I found a corner near an abandoned ticket booth and finally examined the pendant. Its surface was covered in symbols unlike anything I had ever seen. Yet somehow I could understand them, not read them, remember them, as though they had always existed somewhere inside my mind. A memory surfaced. A city of white stone standing beneath a crimson sky. Thousands of figures gathered around a chained dragon. The creature fought against glowing pillars that stretched into the heavens, and standing before them all was a woman wearing silver armor. Her voice echoed through the vision. "We cannot kill it." Fear filled her eyes. "Only imprison it." The vision shattered. I gasped and nearly fell backward. Someone caught my shoulder. The old shop owner, the man from the antique store. He sat beside me without saying a word. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally, he sighed. "You saw the keepers." I stared at him. "You know what this is?" He nodded. More than I wish I did. His name was Arthur. For 40 years, he had collected artifacts recovered from gates around the world. Most were useless. Some were dangerous. A very small number carried fragments of forgotten history. The pendant belonged to the last category. According to Arthur, humanity's understanding of gates was completely wrong. The gates weren't portals. They were locks, prisons built by an ancient civilization that existed long before modern humanity. Monsters weren't invading our world. They were escaping confinement. The dragon was different. It wasn't merely powerful. It was one of the beings the ancient civilization feared most. A world-ending creature, an extinction-level threat. "The prison failed," Arthur said quietly. "And the key chose you." I laughed bitterly. "Why me?" Arthur looked around the crowded station. "Because heroes usually don't survive the first battle." His words hit harder than I expected. Every S-rank hunter in Australia was dead. The strongest had fallen first. Meanwhile, I was still breathing. Not because I was stronger, because I had been helping civilians. For the first time, being weak had actually saved my life. 3 hours later, the shelter came under attack. The warning arrived too late. A hunter sprinted down the tunnel, screaming, "Monsters!" The lights flickered. Then darkness swallowed everything. People panicked immediately. Shouts echoed through the station. Gunfire erupted. Something enormous crashed through the entrance. The emergency lights returned. A creature stood in the tunnel, 8 feet tall, covered in black armor-like skin. Its glowing eyes scanned the crowd. Then more appeared. And more. A whole pack. The station erupted into chaos. Hunters rushed forward. Their attacks barely slowed the monsters. I drew my sword. It felt absurdly small. The first creature charged. I sidestepped and slashed. The blade cut its shoulder, not deep enough. The monster backhanded me across the platform. Pain exploded through my ribs. People screamed. A hunter died 20 meters away. Another vanished beneath clawed limbs. This was it. This was how I died. Not fighting a dragon, not saving humanity. Just another casualty in a ruined train station. Then the pendant activated. Golden light burst from my pocket. Every monster froze. For one impossible second, time itself seemed to stop. The creatures turned toward me, not with rage, with fear. The voice returned, louder than ever. The key remembers. Ancient symbols appeared in the air, the same symbols covering the pendant. One by one they ignited. The monsters recoiled. Then they fled. Not retreated. Fled. As though escaping a predator. Within moments, they disappeared into the tunnels. Silence followed. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Hundreds of survivors stared at me, at the fading symbols, at the pendant. Arthur's face had gone completely pale. "What did I just do?" I whispered. He swallowed hard. "I think," he said slowly, "you just proved the dragon isn't the only thing that escaped." Far above Sydney, a second roar echoed across the night. Different from the dragons. Older, angrier. The station shook violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. People looked upward in terror. Arthur closed his eyes. For the first time since I had met him, I saw genuine fear. Not concern, not worry. Fear. "The prison network is collapsing." Another distant roar thundered across the city. Then a third answered. My blood ran cold. One dragon had nearly destroyed Sydney. Now it sounded like there were more. Arthur looked directly at me. The key wasn't meant to seal a single prisoner. The pendant burned against my chest. The keepers built it to control the entire prison system. I stared at him. Realization slowly dawned. The dragon wasn't hunting me because it wanted revenge. It wasn't hunting me because I had attacked it. It was hunting me because I carried the one thing capable of imprisoning it again. And somewhere in the darkness beyond the city, other creatures had begun to awaken. The first day had been about survival. The second would be about escape. Because Sydney wasn't the battlefield anymore. It was ground zero, and humanity had just learned that the dragon was only the beginning. The third day began with ash falling from the sky. Sydney no longer looked like a city. It looked like the aftermath of the end of the world. Entire districts had burned through the night. Smoke covered the harbor. Military checkpoints had collapsed. Gates continued opening across New South Wales as reality itself seemed to unravel. And somewhere beyond the clouds, the dragon was still searching for me. I stood on the roof of a damaged office building overlooking the city. The pendant hung around my neck. Its golden glow had become impossible to hide. Arthur joined me. He looked exhausted. We all did. Nobody had slept. Nobody had eaten properly. Everyone was simply trying to survive one more hour. "The memories came again," I said. Arthur nodded. I expected they would. This time the visions had been clearer. The ancient civilization, the keepers, the prison network, and most importantly, the final seal. I already knew what Arthur was about to say. "There isn't another key bearer, is there?" "No. There never was." He remained silent. That was answer enough. The keepers had designed the key to work with a living host. Someone had to become part of the prison. Someone had to remain behind. Forever. The dragon found us at noon. The warning arrived as a shadow. People looked upward. The sunlight vanished. Then came the roar. The sound rolled across the city like thunder. Windows shattered, buildings trembled, panic spread through the survivor camp. Above us, the dragon descended through the clouds. Its wings stretched across half the skyline. Its golden eyes locked onto me instantly. Not the camp, not the soldiers. Me, the key bearer. The dragon spoke, not with words, with thought. Its voice echoed inside every mind simultaneously. At last, thousands of people froze. Some dropped to their knees, others covered their ears. The pressure alone felt unbearable. "Give me the key." I tightened my grip on the pendant. No. The dragon's eyes narrowed. For the first time, genuine anger crossed its ancient face. "Then you choose extinction." The dragon opened its mouth. Crimson light gathered between its teeth. Everyone knew what was coming. Dragon fire. The same attack that had killed Australia's strongest hunters. Then missiles erupted into the sky. Dozens, hundreds. The remaining military forces launched everything they had. Jets screamed overhead. Artillery thundered from distant positions. The dragon turned. The beam fired. Fire crossed the heavens. Aircraft vanished instantly. The explosion lit the entire city. But for a few precious seconds, the dragon's attention shifted away from me. That was all the time we needed. Arthur grabbed my shoulder. "Go." The pendant blazed. A golden doorway appeared in the air. The entrance to the prison network. The final seal. I looked back one last time. The survivors. The soldiers. The burning city. My home. Then I stepped through. The world disappeared. I found myself standing inside an endless void. Stars stretched across the darkness. Golden chains floated in every direction. Millions of them, some broken, some intact, all connected to a single point, the heart of the prison. Footsteps echoed behind me. The dragon emerged from the darkness. Smaller now. Not physically, spiritually. This was its true form. Ancient, terrifying, and somehow sad. The creature regarded me silently. Then it laughed. The sound carried no humor, only inevitability. "You cannot stop me." I looked around. The chains were failing. Thousands had already shattered. The prison was dying. Maybe it was right. Maybe I couldn't stop it. I was a D-rank hunter, the weakest person in every room I entered. I wasn't a hero. I wasn't special. I wasn't chosen because I was strong. Then the realization struck me. The dragon was wrong. The key hadn't chosen strength. It had chosen survival. Every powerful hunter who challenged the dragon had died. Every legendary warrior had fallen. But I had survived. Not because I was stronger, because I kept moving, because I refused to quit, because ordinary people don't get the luxury of giving up. The dragon studied me. Then its eyes widened slightly. It understood. "The final seal," I said. For the first time, uncertainty crossed its face. "No." The chains began moving. Golden light flooded the void. "No." The prison awakened. Millions of ancient symbols ignited simultaneously. The dragon roared. The sound shook entire worlds. Chains surged forward. The creature fought. Reality itself trembled. But this prison had once held it for thousands of years, and now the key had returned. The dragon lunged toward me. Its claws tore through space. I stood my ground. For the first time in 3 days, I wasn't running. The chains struck. One wrapped around the dragon's neck, then another and another. The creature screamed. Golden light consumed the void. The dragon's gaze locked onto mine. And suddenly, I understood something. It wasn't evil. It wasn't even cruel. It was simply old. Older than nations, older than civilizations. A force of nature trapped for millennia. It feared imprisonment just as humanity feared extinction. For a brief moment, I almost felt sorry for it. Then I remembered Sydney, the dead hunters, the burning streets, the families torn apart, and I made my choice. The final chain connected, the seal activated, the dragon vanished. Pain exploded through my body. The key shattered. Golden light erupted outward. The prison consumed everything. The stars, the chains, the void, even me. My vision faded. The last thing I heard was the voice of the ancient keepers. The prison endures. Then darkness claimed me. Weeks later, the world was still recovering. Sydney would never fully heal. Neither would humanity. Governments rebuilt. Hunters adapted. Researchers studied the remains of the prison network. No one knew exactly how close the world had come to ending. Most people never would. The official reports called it a catastrophic gate event. Nothing more. The truth remained buried. As for me, I woke up in a hospital overlooking the harbor, alive, against all odds. Arthur sat beside the bed. The old man looked like he had aged 10 years. When he saw my eyes open, he laughed. Then he cried. I decided not to mention it. Outside the window, Sydney was rebuilding. Slowly, painfully, but rebuilding. The dragon was gone. The gates had stabilized. Humanity had survived. Not because of the strongest hunters, not because of the military, not because of some legendary hero, because ordinary people refused to surrender. Arthur handed me a newspaper. The headline read, "The Day Sydney Stood." I stared at it for a long time. Then I smiled. Maybe that was enough. Maybe survival was enough. After all, the strongest hunters in Australia died within 7 minutes. I lasted 3 days. And in the end, 3 days was enough.